Oh, an alternative word for realize.
Got it already.
Huh?
I got it already.
You got it already?
May we completely forget the true meaning of the Tathagata. Is that right?
That's not bad. Can you forget something that you haven't remembered?
I don't know.
Yeah. So one of the problems is this true meaning, huh? Just so you know, they, as scribes, that's the right word, they have ascribed to my boss, I mentioned my boss, Shakyamuni Buddha, the Four Noble Truths, right? Have you heard that? There's Four Noble Truths. I call it the Four Noble Opinions. So, for me, when I hear that word true meaning, I want to throw up. That's not that I want to, that's what just happened. So, because it wreaks havoc with my opinion, man, which is that there's no true meaning. Yeah. So if we could experience, we are experiencing things, right? And if we could just experience it and not try to get the meaning behind it and not try to describe it and not try to analyze it, but just experience it. That's pretty heavy for me. That's what I like to do. Yeah. So you can see where I have lots of problems with lots of stuff that arose, which I'm sure Shakyamuni Buddha did not write. Somebody else wrote those things, and I have a different opinion than those people. Because what is implied in what Shakyamuni Buddha said, that everything is change. Somebody asked something about change. Do you remember who you are? When is it appropriate to change? Oh, when is change appropriate? Well, my opinion, which also was the opinion of Shakyamuni Buddha, is everything is change. That's the only thing constant, is that everything is changing. And that's all of our problems arise, basically, what he said. I mean, it's a little bit, he goes on, Indians are much more philosophical than kids from Brooklyn. So there's all kinds of theories and whatever. But basically, it's that everything is change, that's the only constant, and that our problems arise because we don't want things to change. So, when is change inappropriate? That's answered, right? And it's not a question of inappropriate or appropriate, it's always going to change. The other part of that question is change self-serving? Well, again, that doesn't make much sense. Change is change. Everything is changing. And then we could look and say, oh, guess what just happened? That was self-serving. Well, that's your opinion. Even if what happened is that this bucket of money fell down, you might say, oh, that was a change. It wasn't there before. Now it's there, but it's self-serving if I take it. Or if I don't take it, maybe it's self-serving because I'll feel more like a mensch. I don't know. I'll feel like something. Who knows whether taking it or not taking it will be I don't even know what self-serving means. There was stuck with the issue of the self. Who's the self? Who is it serving? So, isn't it so much simpler to forget about that kind of stuff and say, enter the situation. The situation may be what you're thinking about. Enter it without any, I don't know anything. Doesn't mean you don't have all this stuff. I'm not, but I'm coming in without any plans of what I'm going to do. I'm going to bear witness to what's happening and let the loving actions arise. Teachers acting unskillfully. You know, so so in this room there's a number of teachers. Not just of Zen. I'm sure there are teachers in this room of all kinds of things. And in my opinion, we're all teachers. I don't use the term anymore. But at any rate, that's begging the question. So let's restrict it to Zen teachers. Still within this room, there's a bunch of Zen teachers. And they've all trained in different ways. And they do things. And I don't know who it is that's qualified to say it's skillful or unskillful what they do. Because, again, I look at every action that we do as the best meal we can offer. What that means is that based on on our conditioning, based on what things we're attached to, and we're all attached to certain things, we act in certain ways. That's the best we can do. What I think we mean when we say skillful or unskillful is that I don't like what you did. I don't know what more we could say. Who is the person who can say that was skillful, that was unskillful? Who is that person? That is a person who knows. Right? If you don't know, how the hell are you going to do that? You have to know what skillful and unskillful is. And in my opinion, whatever you think skillful and unskillful is your opinion. So, does that mean you don't do anything? No. You come to that person with no plans, and you don't go saying, you did an unskillful thing or you did a skillful thing. You go with no plans. I'm screaming a little because of this mic business. You go with no plans. You bear witness to the person that you're calling skillful or unskillful. And then see what comes up. See what comes up. That is, you don't avoid action. In my opinion, that you do the action not based on your knowledge or on what you think is right or wrong or what you think are facts. You do it based on those three tenets. That's how I live my life. So that's the only thing I can advise. Because I certainly don't know what skillful and unskillful means. But I'm sure you could tell me. And I'm sure we all have different opinions on that. Now, it may sound like this is a recipe for not doing anything, but I think very differently. I think it's a recipe for being extremely involved. Drawing Zazen is writing stories and creating fantastic concertos and symphonies. Is that Zazen? So I defined what I call Zazen, right? I use the Six Patriarchs definition of Zazen, no subject-object dichotomy. So for me, anything could be Zazen, as long as there's no subject-object dichotomy. So if you are sitting on a cushion and writing this fantastic novel without a subject-object dichotomy arising, wonderful, you're doing Zazen. If you're sitting on a cushion and all you're thinking about is, and you're full of those dualisms, then you're not doing Zazen, even though you might look like it, and you might be in a perfect posture. But for me, the definition of Zazen is, Glassman Roshi used to say a lot, I quoted a lot, that you can go by a doll shop and see in the window a doll doing with its legs crossed in full lotus. That doesn't mean that that doll is doing Zazen. Zazen, it doesn't mean it's not doing Zazen. You got to ask the doll, are you dealing in subject? Yeah, and as I talked earlier, there's many different techniques for helping us to let go of that dualism. But it's not easy. It's not easy. The brain functions in dualism. So attachments, letting go of attachments is very difficult. And the worse they are, or the better they are, the more difficult, right? It's not just the yucky ones that it's easy to let go of. Having this wonderful bliss or having wonderful experiences becomes very difficult to let go of. That's our nature. I don't understand this. Open the door to come together. What did what was the question? Somebody had a question that I sort of wrote down. Open the door to come together. Does anybody remember saying anything like that?
He's the political.
Huh?
He's the political coordinator.
Right.
Oh,
What?
Oh, yeah, that was hers.
Oh, she left?
Yeah.
That's because I didn't answer. Should we skip it? What was the question?
It was like she facilitates politics or something, and how
People
can
are
she-
posting.
She's involved.
Yeah.
She's involved in politics, and she was asked to deliver a message to two vehemently opposed factions that there is no reconciliation, and she does not want to deliver that message,
Oh,
and
I
she
see.
wants to somehow facilitate a more conciliatory thing between.
Well, again, you get, using my terminology, you can't say there is no reconciliation. You can't say there is reconciliation either. I mean, both of those are sort of, what you can say is in my opinion, I think we should keep trying to reconcile. Or you could say, in my opinion, nothing's going to happen here, man. Let's go home. And sometimes when you say that, all of a sudden it all comes together. You know, so saying it as a fact, it creates problems. I do a lot of work in areas where people think that. Me included, that it may be impossible to reconcile, like in the Middle East. I've worked a long, long time in the Middle East, and if you want to work in a place which could be frustrating, that's one. I've met with suicide bombers, with settlers, with politicians, with activists, with many people. And the biggest issue is that they all know what's right. As far as in my opinion, they all know what's right. I mean, it's probably hard to hear the word suicide bomber and not come up with some. But this man was a beautiful man. So how do you bear witness to that? I search out for places that it's hard for me to bear witness, to try to bear witness as a way of growing, as my practice. And let me give you an example. We'll be doing a bearing witness retreat in Rwanda in next April, to be the 20th anniversary of the genocide. And you probably all know about Rwanda. It was about 1 million people killed in 3 months in April of '94. And the mechanism is very similar to any genocide. You first make a group of persons subhuman. So the Tutsis were labeled cockroaches, and they were called cockroaches. And every paper, the school cards and all documentation had to say whether you were Tutsi or Hutu. And so the time came when they had to purify, again, a very common word used in genocides, we have to purify the race. Because if you have your house and you've got all these cockroaches, there are going to be illnesses, there's going to be problems, right? We got to get rid of the cockroaches. Let's exterminate them. And we call them the exterminators. Or if you can't get them in time, you step on them. You know, you get rid of the cockroaches. So that's what they did. Now, there was a time before that where they were all Rwandans, before they had it all labeled. And there was 2 major tribes. There's actually 3 major tribes, but there was 2, the Hutu and Tutsi were 2 major tribes. But there was a time when there was Rwandans and there was a lot of intermarriage among those tribes. At the genocide time, the Hutu husband would kill the Tutsi wife, because she was a cockroach, and kill all the children, his children, because they had cockroach blood in them. And I met such a man. Now for 20 years they've been in a process of forgiveness and different kind of processes, and it's amazing because everybody lives together. So many people went to prison, but as they come back, they ask for forgiveness. They apologize, they ask for forgiveness. And they come back to maybe to this house where this person might have killed all of my family. I mean, it wants my forgiveness. And so they have processes for that and whatever. So I met one of these. How do you bear witness to such a thing? Can you approach that person from a state of not knowing and bear witness? And what will come out of that? So I seek that kind of thing because that's my practice now. Let's pause for a second and open it up to comments. Because one of my problems is I can go on and